Hello and welcome back to the Mother Gaia Birthy Pod. I'm Katie, and as always I'm here to bring you open, honest and empowering conversations about the things that matter, especially when it comes to our health, our families and the world that we live in. Now before we dive in, I want to be really clear. This is not a conspiracy episode. I'm not here to scare anyone. This conversation is about awareness, education and giving you the information you need to make informed choices about your own life. Because the truth is, we are constantly surrounded by technology, our phones, Wi-Fi, 5G towers, and most of us don't stop to think about how it might be affecting our bodies and our well-being. So today I'm joined by Patti Wood, the Executive Director of Grassroots Environmental Education in New York. Patti has spent so long researching environmental toxins and advocating for safer policies. She's here to help us understand what the science says about electromagnetic radiation, how it might be impacting us, and most importantly, what we can do to protect ourselves in simple, practical ways without needing to disconnect from the modern world. This is an episode you don't want to miss, so grab yourself a cuppa, get comfy, and let's get into it.
My name is Patti Wood. I'm the Executive Director and founder of Grassroots Environmental Education, which is an environmental health nonprofit based here in New York. And we work on a national and international basis on issues of wireless radiation, as well as many other things. I'm also a visiting scholar at Adelphi University, where I lecture in the College of Nursing and Public Health.
Excellent, thank you. So we are going to talk about your BabySafe project. So do you want to tell me a little bit about that, what it is and how it came about?
Sure. So, as an active member of the community, the environmental health community, the issue of wireless radiation has just been growing and growing here, as it is all over the world. And I happened to be at a conference where Dr. Hugh Taylor from Yale University was speaking about a recent study that he and his colleagues had conducted at Yale. Now, Dr. Taylor is the head of reproductive sciences and OBGYN at Yale Medical School. Okay. One of our leading universities, I might add, here in the U.S.
Yeah, we've heard of it here.
Yes, you've heard of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so Hugh was talking about, or Dr. Taylor was talking about this study that they had done using laboratory mice, where they had pregnant mice in one cage with a cell phone just on. That's it, just on, nobody talking on it or receiving messages. And then they had another control group of pregnant mice in a cage with a cell phone that had been turned off. So there was no radiation being produced by that phone. And then they studied the offspring or the babies of these laboratory mice and saw that the ones that were exposed exhibited what we would call, hyperactivity or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. They were, bouncing off the walls of the cages. They were very aggressive. They had poorer memory. They couldn't even find their food, which is very unusual for rodents, right? Once you show them where their food is, they're able to go back to it immediately. And so that surprised them, and they replicated the study. And so they were actually looking for tumor growth, and they weren't finding that, but they were actually finding this very, very aggressive and hyperactive behavior. So that was interesting to them because the fetus, of course, is the most vulnerable. Their brains are still forming and their organ systems and so on, but they were particularly interested in the brain, and they saw that the prefrontal cortex of the brain was actually wired differently, that it was not, that the normal development of that part of the brain was not there, that it was an abnormal development. So, we thought it's an easy thing to do because proximity is everything when we're talking about wireless or RFR, radio frequency radiation. And so, he just said, it's such a simple thing to do. Keep your cell phone out of your pocket when you're pregnant, Don't have your belly right up to your desk where you have a wireless computer or tablet. Don't carry your cell phone in a bag against your body. Just simple things. I mean, pregnant women are already conscious of not smoking, not drinking, not eating tuna fish sandwiches because of the mercury, not using, toxic cleaning products. And this is even more simple, right?
Yeah.
Just keep the phone away from the developing baby. And so that started this BabySafe Project. And so we have just been reaching out to prenatal professionals all over the country, not only OBGYNs, but also midwives and doulas and clinics in underserved communities across the country. And then it has actually been picked up by many other organizations, professional organizations around the world. So it's been translated into 9 different languages.
Okay.
And so it's moving around, and it's just a simple message. And then, we have tips for reducing the exposure to wireless, not only not putting it in your pocket, but also, just the typical things that we teach everybody, which is not to use your cell phone in cars, trains, and planes and elevators. But it basically increases the radiation output when you're inside these types of vehicles, because you're basically in a Faraday cage, which is a metal cage, and it's producing it's producing more energy to try to get out and find that nearest antenna for connection.
Okay, right. I'm writing down lots and lots of questions as you're talking. So the first one I'm going to pick up on is obviously the radiation versus sort of like screen time. So the big thing that I understand here, especially for things like ADHD, autism, what have you, that is worse for children when they've, say, been playing on a phone or on a tablet. They can sit for a while watching things, but then afterwards, like you said, their hyperactivity gets higher and that they're bouncing off the walls, even for children who don't have like ADHD. Are we now looking at, this isn't necessarily just the blue screen on a screen? Are we now looking at that it's actually the radiation coming from it that can make these symptoms worse?
Well, there are a lot. That's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of things that we can talk about. First of all, you just mentioned the blue screen. So that's all of our screens are LEDs, are lit by LEDs, lighting, light emitting diodes. And so that is constantly telling the body that, it's awake, it's daytime, and so first of all, we really want to discourage the use of screens of any kind, whether it's your phone or your tablet or your computer, after dark, right? Before you go to sleep, because the brain has already decided that it's daytime, right? And so it's not producing melatonin, which it does in the dark every single night, which is a critical hormone for many of our body systems. And so you're messing around with your circadian rhythm, which is that you sleep in the dark and you're awake during the light, right? During the daytime. And so that's one thing that's really, really important. Secondly, screens excite the brain and excite, especially children's things that they're watching, video games and, very brightly colored things that are very fast moving. And so it's really hard to calm down after that. And, I would also like to say that it is preventing children from doing what children should do. I'm talking about human children. They are supposed to be outdoors. They're supposed to be exploring their environment. They're supposed to be part of their environment, right? So as much time as we can get, for our children to be outdoors in nature is just critical. And that is becoming less and less and less common. And they're spending more and more time with technology, and it's really taking its toll. And I haven't even touched on social media, right?
Yeah, don't get me started on that.
About using technology and being in front of a screen, 7, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. And in some cases more than that, which is just crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is definitely. So there was something that I saw not that long ago. I think it might have been a reel or something on the internet. Again, I spend too much time on it myself. But they were saying that there's actually like a little clause within the terms and conditions actually printed into your phone. So if you go into the section, I think it might be privacy or extended terms and conditions into your phone and look under this particular thing, it actually states that you should always keep your phone 1.5 centimeters away from your body at all times. And I went and I checked it on my phone, I checked it on my partner's phone, and I checked it on my mum's phone, and we all have different, and every single one of them has this little clause in there saying that you should, because of the radiation on it. I didn't know it existed. Didn't know it was a thing.
Nobody does.
No.
No, it's often in the legal section of the phone. You go under legal and then you scroll all the way down to the very bottom of the legal section in your phone, and it says radiation.
Yeah.
And, and just in simple terms, it basically says, do not hold this device against your body.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, and in some places, in some phones, it actually says that. I mean, some manufacturers actually say, do not hold this device against your body, which means never in a pocket, never in a sports bra or a top where, you run, you put your phone there. It's very convenient. Never directly against your head. Never directly against your head. But this is how people use their phones.
Yeah.
Because like you said, you had no idea.
Yeah.
And I would say probably 99% of the people that are using their phones have no idea. And the manufacturers have actually put that in there to protect themselves.
Yeah.
Legally.
Yeah.
This is a protection for them against lawsuits.
Yeah. So does that then link with what I think we were talking just before we started recording about one of the lawsuits that you said you were going to bring against them, or are bringing against them, the law that they've broken?
Yes, against our Food and Drug Administration. They are responsible. They work hand in hand with our FCC, our Federal Communications Commission. So they are supposed to be, actually reducing the amount of radiation, or making recommendations for human exposures. They call them the human exposure guidelines, which have not been updated in decades.
Yeah. And in that time we've got internet, Wi-Fi, 4G, 5G. Yeah.
So they have not been updated in decades. And of course 5G, when you just mentioned 5G, all of a sudden, we don't have these cell antennas or towers, on a water tower in a remote location in our community, or, on a major highway where nobody's really living, but cars are going past. Now with 5G, because of the short distance that, that the signal travels, they need to be placed right in front of our homes. And we're talking about cities. You're talking about antennas being like within a couple of feet of a child's bedroom in an apartment building, right, in a city. And so this has made it really, a big deal here in the US, where people don't want them in front of their homes. And they're like every, 500 to 1,000 feet, to put in these 5G antennas. And not only is it producing 5G, but it is also has to be 4G, 3G or 4G, which is for talking and text, right? Yeah. You have to have that for talking and text. And then you have 5G, which does all these crazy things. But there it is. And it's on 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't want to fall down a thing of frightening people,
No.
because that's not what we're here for.
People should know.
Yeah, if you don't know about it, you can't do anything about it. Which then leads on to the next thing. I know you said like obviously keeping your phone away from your body and things like that. Is there anything? Is that simple, or is there anything else that we can be doing to help protect ourselves, particularly pregnant women?
Well, yes. Pregnant women should be doing all the things that we recommend anyone do. Okay, minimize your use of cell phones. Use a landline at home. Okay, or a corded phone, if you call it that. Okay, don't keep your cell phone next to your bed. Just keep it on the other side of the room, or even better yet, in another room while you're sleeping, so you don't have that going on right next to you. And certainly, we think about teenagers, they put them under their pillows.
Yeah.
They just can't live without them. And of course, they're designed to be addictive.
Yeah.
They are designed to be addictive. There's all kinds of conversations here in the US, and there are hearings in the, in the Senate and the House. We're talking about, what are you doing? How much money have you spent to make these addictive? And, what are you doing about, childhood, addiction, and about suicide rates and mental health issues that are just exploding, not just here, but I'm sure,
everywhere.
around the world. We already talked about about using cell phones in cars and trains and elevators and airplanes and so on. You should always try to connect with, if you're home, connect with an Ethernet cord, or what we call, you should hardwire your computer, or your tablet if you can. When you're streaming a video, okay, which is using a lot of radiation, it always emits higher levels. So download it and then view it or play it with your device in airplane mode. So you just download when you want to stream something, whether it's a video game, or any other kind of playing a game that kids do all the time. Just actually download it and then view it with your device in airplane mode. And when you put it in airplane mode, keep in mind that's a really good thing, but you have to turn off those out. You have to turn off Bluetooth, right? You have to turn off Wi-Fi. You have to make sure that you do that so that your phone is not emitting any radiation. So turn off all those other things. The other thing that we're concerned about here, and probably all over the world, they're beginning to put smart utility meters or wireless utility meters on people's homes and apartment buildings. This has been a huge problem, because these smart meters actually, they actually have very, very high bursts of radiation, or high peaks. And then if they're on a wall right outside your bedroom, in other words, if your bedroom shares a wall with the outside wall where there's a smart meter, these can be set to pulse or transmit information, every couple of seconds. They can do whatever they want with them. And we have I'm sure you've heard of it, but we have a growing number of people with electromagnetic hypersensitivity, which means that they are really disabled by exposure to this type of radiation. It's mostly neurological problems, but they can also have skin problems. They can have cardiovascular problems associated with it. In many cases, people have to leave their jobs. They have to, to avoid going into public buildings, because every public building, everywhere you go, has got routers in it. But these people are really sick. There's actually a place in West Virginia, one of our states here, where there is a huge NASA satellite dish, which is listening to the sounds of space. But it is in an area where they do not allow any cell phone antennas. There's no antennas in quite a large square mile. I think it's 17 square miles, but but don't hold me to that. And so people who have this electromagnetic hypersensitivity are moving to West Virginia to that area. To avoid exposure to these antennas. But it's really quite, it's quite hard to avoid exposure today. It's almost like everywhere you go. And unless you make a huge effort, I shouldn't say a huge effort, it's not a huge effort. Whenever you buy a router, there's an Ethernet connection there. So you can plug in your Ethernet cables, and then just wire all of your, your devices. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I have wires, in my house. With computers everywhere. It's fine.
It's one of those things you don't really think about it, because we've kind of just gone along with it. Here's an updated phone, this can do this, that, and the other. Here you have this Wi-Fi connection, this, that, and the other. I mean, even just thinking about in my house alone, we have 3 tablets, 4 telephones, and a TV that connects to the Wi-Fi, and you can stream TV programs straight into the telly.
Right.
And it's just, you think about, I think we have a wireless meter as well. So all of these things in one small space, because we don't have a massive, huge house. But you think all of that stuff, and most of it is centered around either the center of the house or in the living room where we spend most of our time.
Right. So, it is ubiquitous, but it's especially problematic inside people's homes.
Mm-hmm.
Because, if you can turn your router off at night. You always should do that, and make sure that your phones are not near where you are sleeping.
Yeah.
That's really, really important. And as far as, streaming videos and so on, just get into the habit of doing that so that we're watching them in airplane mode so that there's no radiation being emitted as you watch, because sometimes you sit there for hours, right?
Yeah.
Doing something. Also, if you want to keep getting into this, if you're in their car and you're using your phone, if you have weak signals, don't use it. Wait until you have your strong signal bars, okay? Because the phone is working harder to to connect to that antenna, which is pretty far away. So as that closer you get to the antenna, the more bars you're going to get. That's when you make your call.
Yeah.
So it's it's just crazy. It's a crazy time. If you are going to use your phone on a regular basis, I would suggest that you get a headset, or use it on speakerphone. But if you're going to get a headset that it has an air tube connection. Okay, so it's called an air tube headset. So it actually works the same way a stethoscope does. When they listen to your heart, when you go to the doctor, they're listening to it through an air tube, right? And so you're not getting a wire directly into your ear canal. You're actually just getting your sound is coming through an empty tube, and it's so much safer.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna have a headset, do that.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh wow, that's excellent. I mean, when you first came to me and said, "Oh, I'm doing this, that, and the other," and I thought, "Oh, this is going to be one of those proper tinfoil hat jobbies, conspiracy theories going on," and actually, it's not. Everything that you've said it's based on research, good research as well, and stuff that we already kind of know about. So thank you for coming on and giving us that information. If anybody wants to find out any more or to get in contact with you or anything like that, where can we find you?
You can find us at, the best way to find us is at grassrootsinfo.org. So the GRASSROOTS info.org. And then you can find all of our programs. We have a drop down on the left side of our website, and it just goes to all of our different programs, and 3 of them are devoted to this issue. And when you say that there's a lot of information, we have 4 6-inch digests. We keep these digests and update them constantly with the independent science on human health and exposure to wireless radiation. And it's amazing how much research is going on this subject. I mean, we have, unfortunately, a lot of the organizations that set standards are compromised because they have industry people sitting on their boards, sitting on their committees, and those industry people, of course, are incredibly powerful. I mean, we spend more money here in the United States lobbying with lobbyists from the telecom industry that more so than any other industry in the world. I didn't say that very well. Okay, more lobbyists from the telecom industry in Washington, D.C. than there are from any other industry in the world. They're incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
You just have to learn about this and make safe and good decisions, especially if you have young children. It's critical.
Yeah. And that's it for today's episode. A huge thank you to Patti Wood for sharing her knowledge and expertise with us. I hope this conversation has given you some valuable insights and practical steps you can take to reduce your exposure to radiation in a way that feels right for you. As always, all the links and resources Patti mentioned can be found in the show notes, so be sure to check those out if you want to dive deeper. If you're looking for more information to help you make informed choices during pregnancy, birth and beyond, you can find me on Instagram at mother_Gaia_Crabtree and through my link tree at linktr.ee/Mother Gaia Crabtree. Thank you for being here, for keeping an open mind and for taking the time to empower yourself with knowledge. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, share it with a friend and leave a review. It really helps more people to find these important conversations. And until next time, take care and stay empowered.